All right, welcome everybody. Today we're going to be working on this. Somebody drilled the holes in the wrong spot. Can you imagine that, putting on the hardware and you measure wrong? Well, I'm going to show you how we fix it around here, so stick around. This is how we do it. All right, so you elongate these out a little bit, give them a little shape. You just don't want them to represent circles anymore. Okay, circles is a little easy for your eyes to see. So there you go. Let's do that. And you mix up your epoxy putty. I got this little putty worked up. It comes in, it's two colors at once, so anyway. You work it in. Now you push this things up inside the hole, see? Not just down in it, but you gotta push it up against the walls of it. So normally what I'll do is I'll roll up a little ball, slide it down inside like that, right? Give it a little bit inside there to start with. But anyway, you get it going like that. Nothing to it. Okay, work it up in the holes there. Push it, push it, push it. And I have another little round one that kind of forces it up inside. And we don't want to do this too far right yet. Okay, so we do that again. We're going to do this on the inside and on the back to give it some support. We don't want it coming off these walls. That's the whole reason we're forcing it up against the walls. When this putty shrinks over its time, we don't want it to give a revealing ring about itself. Okay? We don't have to worry about leveling these off, and I'll show you why. Flipping it over. Now we got to remember we're doing the inside holes here. In the same way, this putty goes very fast. It's like a 5-minute epoxy wood putty. It's catalyzed. So once you mix it, it goes. So this is the first phase. Okay. Cram it all down in there. And this is just going to support the top. You don't have to be super critical. This gets covered to the back of another drawer body goes into it. But anyway, this is all just for structure. And again, we'll force it down in there a little bit. All right. Press it in good and hard with your finger. And take a razor blade, lay it perfectly flat, and kind of slice it. You see? Like that. Just slice it off. Okay? Now take a paper towel and wash that excess off now. Alright? Even letting this filler go a little below the line. It's okay. You want to be more cleanliness than anything. Alright, now notice that this stuff has come out over the top now. I'm going to do the same here at the top. Is I'm going to cut that off and cut this one off just like that. Okay, keep your fingers clean. This stuff wants to attract to itself. Now see, when I'm pushing this in, I'm pushing it up against the inside walls again. Right? I want that barrier to be stuck right there, and this is almost setting up, so we're about done. It's okay. We got more filling to go. This is the preliminary one. Okay, same here. Slice it off and then level it in. I don't even mind a little dimple is fine, because again, I'm going to fill it again. This one I know is going to shrink up a little bit. This is a non-shrinking product, but it definitely will. It does shrink when you're putting it inch thick, so it's kind of relative. And don't shrink to. Yeah, so there you go. That's your initial one, and putty is already kind of hard. Look at that. Did you hear that bounce off of there? So anyway, you keep your stuff on the sides. That ought to be good. All right. Looks lovely. Okay, next phase coming right up. Hey, thanks for sticking around. It's fun. Now you know how to do it, right? Nothing to it when you know how to do it. Okay, this burn in here. See how I'm heating up that filler a little bit? Yep. Let's the two marry together just a little. And it's got the surface roughened up while it's still a little on the wet side. Push it down in there. Make sure it gets up against all the walls. Okay. I see an air pocket down inside. Make sure there's no voids, especially on your first setup. Okay. Anyway, you're not going to do this, are you? Really, leave it down in the comments if you guys are really doing this or you're just watching me do it. I would imagine you're watching me do it. I think if you were going to do it, you would probably already have the knowledge. I don't know. Or maybe you're trying to learn to burn in. Hey, if you are, welcome to the team, man. This is how you do it. Nothing to it. Not hot enough to do that job. Hot enough to level. When you're leveling these off, you don't want your knife too hot, because it'll just void it out. It'll kind of shallow it down a little bit. Okay. That one looks pretty good. Let's go back to this one now. I bet she's ready. Yep. See, now I turn the knife off. It's hot enough, and it'll stay hot for a couple minutes. Again, it would have already dripped off by now if I'd let it. But I wanted that to remain hot for just a sec. Okay. Pushing it into the side walls. Trying to get this where you can see it without me blocking you so much on camera. And it's easier to do this stuff when you're not trying to think about if you got to say something. So anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. This is kind of it, right? This is how we repair somebody's mistake. They're drilling holes in their cabinet, they putting their hardware on, and then they realized their holes were too close together. How panicked, right? Too late. Somebody got a chewing. I'll guarantee that. I would hate to be the one on the other side of this. I'm going to leave that right there. I think I can sand that level easier than laying this off. It's one pass away. So is this one. It's one pass away from being perfectly level. Gosh. That was one pass. Look at that. Perfect. Let's try this one. One pass. Perfect. Okay. Now I'll play that game. Okay. Here we are. Let's let that dry. Okay. Now you want to level this up. That's gotten to drying down for a little bit. Just to harden it up. And this is again back with our 400 to knock off any high spots. Oh. And you want to keep your repairs flat as possible and as small as possible for as long as possible. Because this, you don't want to make a small hole into a big deal. Doesn't have to be. Let's see how it all builds up on the paper real fast. See, I was getting that filler off by using heat and just friction, and heated it back up where it was left off to the side, so I didn't have to sand it off. Okay. And did you see how that one tip got real bright? That's because it was the highest spot, and now they're all pretty level, so I can see that even in the filler itself. Let me move this thing out of the way. It had fallen once. Now this is 600. And I can do this by hand, because then I can dictate exactly where my pressure is going. And I can just feel it. I can feel the little filler underneath there. And when I can't feel it, I know it's gone. And this one, there is a littlest variation, but we're not going to see that when we use our paint to go back over the top. It'll fill back in on that small idea. Okay, looks good. Good enough for government work. All right, now it's time for airbrushing. So you get your airbrush, thin down your paint a little bit, until it draws out, right? Now, easily, right? You don't want to put this on too thick, right? Give it a light coat, and again, in different directions. Don't just try to spray it on like you're painting your house, right? This is made to go on easy, right? See how slow that actually builds up in there? So, just keep that little bit going just like that, and you're done. Okay, fill it all in, let it look good. It's a little bit of color. There you are. All right, let's let that dry, and we'll be right back with some more. We'll sand that down. We'll give it another coat of paint. We'll give that a nice little sand down, probably about 600 grit. And then we'll start putting our clear coats on. So thanks a lot for sticking around. All right, now that we have this set up here, that coat has been dried. Now we're going to take a little 600 and level it once again. Lightly give it a rub. And then just to really flatten the profile. Okay, you can see there's no real high spots, no low spots. And we're going to be repainting this, but the next coat's even finer. So this is if there was a level coat involved, this is it. And I'm just lightly touching it. And really the idea is to touch around the outside and let the paper itself cut the inside. So that right there should be just perfect. Because again, we got another layer of paint and we got 2 more coats to finish. So if there's any little dip in there, that's good. Okay, so there you go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to sand this up with a little 600. Just going to give it just a light touch, right? Just to level it off just ever so slightly. Blend it all in nice. You take a little gray scratch pad. It's equivalent to 600. Blend that in. Make sure your surface is all perfectly clean. No smudges, because you're going to seal it in with lacquer here. So now we're going to take a little satin. This is a satin finish that's on it. And this is from Mohawk. It's a perfect blend, as they call it. It blends into existing finishes real well. And the deal with this is you want to be accurate, right? You see how we actually nail that sucker. And give that its second. You don't want to over flood it. We're going to work this in just a little bit at a time and make sure everybody likes everything and that our colors match up okay. And they'll change as we thicken them up a little. But our first coat, we don't want to apply it too thick. So here we go, and I'm going to move on to the next door, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, we've got our second coat of lacquer on there now. It's all dried up. Look at how pretty that turned out, huh? Now you could do the same thing with primers or paints. Just make sure your paints are all dried up. You want to use acrylic paints if you're going to be using paint. But anyhow, there you go. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Like and subscribe if you got some value out of this one or you want to see something else like it. And let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see if you're working on a project. Maybe I can get to a video before you're done with it. If you have any questions on how I did it, drop me down a little suggestion and I'll answer it up to you as fast as I can. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me. It's been fun. Hope you learned something. I did. Appreciate the time spent. Talk to you soon, guys.